The brand new day. How many people find themselves doing this? After my wife's most recent and severe EA, we are going to begin working on things. I'm trying hard to believe everything she has said, and after repeatedly confronting with respect to any info she has withheld, her story has remained consistent for the most part. She's either speaking from the bottom or her heart, or an amazing liar. I hope the former is what I've gotten. It is clear she wants to be in this relationship, and she is doing everything that one would expect to help repair things. I suppose that would be enough to really begin the recovery for some. I'm become very focused on her ability to spill her guts though, and it's quite possible it is all out on the table. Yet I'm not fully convinced it is all out, and I'm not ready to accept that yet, as it's only been about 7 weeks since D-Day. Still, given my vulnerable state, a few things remain suspicious to me, which will only become clearer with time. This is with respect to locations she has been for work, in which she'll need to return to within 3 months or so. I've grown wise to not just ask her to help me add up the facts, and given her line of work, I can't ask her co-workers cause the Brotherhood would just cover for her. So instead, I will keep my information to myself and cross-reference when she has made the trips. I've explained the deal-breaker aspect to this R, and it upset her. No surprise that I still couldn't fully believe her. But I said what I needed to. I'm crossing my fingers things add up once I have the info I need. But dear God, in the event they don't, I'm going to try with all my might to stick to the plan and just move forward with the separation process. I'm about 8 weeks in after exposing my wife's affair in late May. It has been a textbook roller coaster of emotions, which many of are very familiar with. The quick background is that my wife was in an emotional affair for about a year, which developed into texting and sending pictures. This is all I could confirm for sure. We began reconciling too quickly and had some setbacks, but things then were progressing at a reasonable pace. Last week I came across details that placed her at the OM's house. And when I first confronted her, she denied anything happened and that she was with other work colleagues as well. No alone time. Well, I gave a rest to things for 2 days, but since I knew my information indicated she was indeed in his town at least once on her own, I made the decision that if she didn't confess that they spent time together alone, I'd either demand a polygraph or begin the D process, or both. When I brought up the situation the second time, I was calm and collected and did not reveal exactly what I knew. Only that the information I have confirms she was not with other work colleagues. Before I had to get into the polygraph and divorce talk, she finally admitted that they have kissed. This was prior to the house visit, and she began to give me a timeline of when it first started. She also admitted she was at his place alone on a day training was canceled, and that he came on to her. They engaged in heavy petting and kissing, but when we tried to bring her from the couch to the bedroom, she said she cannot do it and that they cooled down, and he apologized for trying to move things in that direction. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the guy does have some good in him, despite the fact he was actively trying to sleep with my wife. So perhaps he's human after all. At this point I was somewhat satisfied that she admitted the physical aspect, as it was denial after denial for the first 7 weeks post D-Day. And I didn't run from the table. I stayed there, showing her I continue to be more interested in her ability to be honest with me about everything, as it's the most important things to me. My internal bucket for pain is already filled. I then mentioned the fact that in some cases a BS needs their DS to take a polygraph to put any more suspicions out of their mind, and she said she would do it now because she has such a weight off of her shoulders. But she would have been a mess had I asked a few days ago. I also asked her what the OM would respond if we sent a text from her phone saying, "I told my husband that we had slept together," and she even said, "You can if you want." I should add she was upset, but not angry, crying, but not hysterical. I did sense she was relieved she got this off her chest. She continues to be ashamed of herself and is showing true remorse. Going forward she's doing the right things, but I'm obviously still trying to determine what exactly I am forgiving. So, I ask this: if I want this woman in my life, do I just have to force myself to move on? Why am I so obsessed with determining if there are more details, and that perhaps she said I can't do this after they were already sleeping together? I wrote my wife a letter that explains where I am at right now in my need for the truth. The whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and I plan to give it to her before my IC session on Thursday night, with the hope that if anything else needs to be said, we do it when I return from counseling. If her response satisfies me, I may consider closing this ugly chapter of our lives and start focusing 100% on R. What makes this particularly difficult is that we both want this to work out. Neither of us are looking for an out. Yes, she has hurt me in the past, but she is committed to finally changing her ways, and she has showed that change to me already. There was no spite or angst in our relationship, and I'm the best lover she has ever been with. So no real physical issue either. Is it out of the question that someone can come to their senses in that moment of time and decide they need to stop what they are doing? I'm going to find that out over the next few weeks, I guess. So of course, when she tells me she has no physical interest in her it didn't mean anything. She doesn't know why. I just want to punch all the sheetrock in my house. I feel like if we don't get to the bottom of this, it could happen again, or I'm going to leave. Perhaps it is as simple as her need for attention. But why is she practically going to have sleep with a guy she has no interest in? What the hell is going on? Oh, one more thing. In our tough conversations, she mentioned that in her previous not the most recent, she said to the this has to end because I don't want to lose my marriage. And yet she takes things to the next level 2 years later. I know my doormat attitude didn't help, but understand, I did blow up when I discovered the last I think my wife has a serious attention compulsion that she needs to own up to. And if she can't, I don't know how I can go on with this woman. My story has gotten ugly. D-Day was end of May, and what came to light was that my wife had an affair for about a year. The truth had to be extracted from her, and her ability to lie and deceive was nothing short of breathtaking. What started as texting, pictures ended with 2 affairs. One that began while we were dating and our relationship was dull. This one ended during our engagement, and one that went on for the last year. She had no emotional feelings for these guys. It was purely just thrill of being bad. Contact ended with recent immediately upon my discovery. In addition, she was also lying to me that she had told her therapist the details. Yet my recorder picked up that she indeed had not told him it was anything but texting. I ended up emailing her therapist directly to explain what is up. He told her it concerns him that she left out so many details, so maybe we're making progress with what's going on upstairs in her head. Then he, I'm sure, would tell me to get the hell out of here, as this woman treats marriage as a game of what can I get away with without getting caught. It seems like a blow-up of this magnitude needed to happen, or she may have been cheating on me her entire life. Her day of reckoning has arrived, I think, and she is showing shame, remorse, regret. What the hell did I do? But it's been such a journey, and I feel like I'm just beginning to learn who the woman is that I married. So, if her game is finally over, is our first attempt she was sticking with just texting and pics, so we stopped and just were doing IC. She is still in IC. The right start. It almost seems like she needs to spend some time admitted in an addiction facility. And what's wrong with me that I still consider giving this a try? Yes, we do have kids, but I have grown tremendously over these last 2 months. I am moving out and we will be separated while we go to counseling. I also made it very clear to her that there are no promises. If I continue to feel like I'm only here for the kids, it's not going to work out. It's just so hard to know. The possibility exists that even our marriage is a game to her. It's a mess. I'm painting her very dark, because she messed up big time, but my reaction has been quite different. The stuff I previously accepted makes me want to puke now. Our families know. I contacted the and I kicked her out Sunday night when the truth about bonding surfaced. Oh, and is there anything more to gain by continuing to push for details? I mean, she admits to sleeping with another man. There could be more. But will that do anything for this situation? I'm preparing for separation, and ultimately divorce. Sunday night I will sit the kids down in front of her and give them the talk about mommy and daddy having problems. I will leave the house Sunday night, but before I leave, I'm simply going to say to her I don't believe everything is on the table. And I'm passing the ball to your court. If it truly is all out, you have the right to end this marriage. Then I'm leaving. I'm pretty certain too much damage has taken place in this relationship, but we'll see what type of inner battle that creates for her. As my brain continues to purge all of my thoughts from the last 7 years of marriage, I'm realizing that my wife's most recent affair shouldn't surprise me at all. I knew she was hooking up with a guy before we got engaged, yet I got down on my knee and proposed to her. I was cleaning out the kitchen garbage while we were engaged and found a condom in the trash. We never throw them in the kitchen trash. Yet after asking my brother if he banged his wife when they were at my place the week before, they didn't. I buried the issue. What the hell is wrong with me accepting that bull crap when I knew it was going on? Our marriage has been perfect. No fighting, affectionate, we are romantic, plan surprises, and a lot of our friends consider us to have had a fairy tale marriage. And yet I entered this knowing my wife was cheating on me. Now with her recent affair, Pandora's box is open. And I'm now dealing with everything from the last 10 years. I know it's not totally fair to punish her for the previous stuff considering I proposed to her. But I'm starting to think it's going to be extremely difficult to move on together, even if this is her changing point where she ends her cheating ways. I'm only now accepting that the last 10 years of my life with her were lies, and it hurts. I'm guilty of not standing up for myself in previous situations. But I'm not selfish, and for the sake of my kids I'm willing to put my happiness in the back seat for a little while to see if we can come to terms with this mess. To me, 6 to 12 months of trying is not a lifetime, but I will not stay in a hollow relationship for 20 more years. Post-nup retainer has already been deposited, and that is non-negotiable. and wife accepts that she needs to live with that, while I live with her infidelities. Most of you would either call me a pathetic guy with no self-respect, or the doormat of all doormats. I see myself as a new individual that will never take crap from anyone, regardless of whether my relationship works out or not. I'm not throwing in the towel yet. I have grown so much as a person through the discovery of my wife's most recent affair. It's been amazing. What makes this situation unique is that her affairs did not stem from something she is lacking at home. It's her addiction to the need for attention and to be desired, with guys she is not interested in. Once guys she is already close with fill that void, she lets them in and then the fog puts things on cruise control. I man up and began communicating to the OM a few weeks ago. Something that the old me would never have had the balls to do. Since they still work in the same place, I just had to know for sure that things were over and that there was no contact. Put it this way, without ever threatening the OM. I had him crying on the phone about what he did and how badly he ruined our lives. His wife is 6 months pregnant and it is not in my character to destroy her world, so I do not plan on telling her. But he now lives with the concern that I may tell her, as I never said what I'd ultimately do either way. He will have to live with the guilt for the rest of his life, and since I know this guy, he has been friends with my wife for years. I know he's not just BS me, he's a mess. Most of the people in my life I've opened up to about this crisis have responded that they are awestruck with my ability to handle such a tremendous blow to all I have known for the length of my marriage. My brother can't sleep. My good friend said he can't handle things half as well that are half as heavy. My mom says it's likely due to my mesomorph characteristics, something my maternal grandfather had the qualities of as well. It's possible. My wife, well, she has a sickness and she is only beginning to accept that she needs serious therapy. But we're getting there. Why I'm still around, and let me tell you, I'm being perfectly honest with her, is because of our precious kids, and I've explained my goal is to rekindle a flicker of the flame that has permanently gone out from our old relationship. If that flame can't be relit, we will not work out. But there is a glimmer of hope. It's different this time. The family knows. After she was going to tell her mom, then decided against it. I demanded she tell her, as that may be the beginning of where this need for attention stems from. The fact that she has no real relationship with her parents and that they were clueless and gave her no consequences as a child, teenager, and likely may be filling the void with the other man. After the phone call, she realized how much she is going to need her mother in the months to come. She says she can't go on without me, but I've told her she needs to truly explore that thought, cause her brain seems to operate in 2-year cycles. And once we hit 2 years or so, she lets someone else in. Is she capable of remaining in a committed relationship? The question can't be answered right now. A post-nup has been discussed, and she said she'd sign it 10 times over. Done. I think the true reason I'm giving her another chance is that this is the first time I've addressed the problem. So in essence, it's her first but final chance. I take the responsibility for not being the man I should have been in previous situations. And I know we all say it's not our fault and we should be protected by the bond of trust, but for some, especially those that have grown up with no consequences, they need to be taught right and wrong because it's not in their system. She understands there are no more chances, and she's done a terrible job in the first 2 months of this mess with the trickle truth and lies. But she is starting to see a little more clearly. She wants to be here though, there is no question about that. And she said she will not, personally, end this marriage, ever. She will not go unless I ask her to go, but she'll go fighting to stay with me. But she needs to prove that she wants to be here, cause her actions to have suggested otherwise for years. Simply put, she is one of the luckiest women alive, because I have the talent to handle what would send most guys to the hills. That is me, and I can accept that, and I am happy for who I am. In these times, honest people feel shortchanged. They feel like honesty gets them nothing. They feel like they truly do finish last. But I'm still a believer that if you are honest, you will find the right way in life. We're going to MC and my wife is making many efforts to show me she wants to be in the relationship. Ended contact, though they work together so it's impossible for it to be 100% ended. But she deleted his number from her phone. And from recorded conversations with her girlfriend, she couldn't care less about the OM. In fact, she said she wouldn't care if he died tomorrow. I've become obsessed with the details, and to be honest, I know them all. But she still has trouble telling me what I already know. From the phone tap, I guess this is something I need to accept. I mean, they had slept together, so I suppose it's not terribly important to know anything else. In fact, had she left it as an affair, it really answered all my questions and I wouldn't have had to extract info from her over the last 2 months. It was just me being naive about the depth of the relationship. The broad definition of affair answered all of it for me: emotions, relationship, thoughts, physical, yuck. So, I'm yet another one of us on this board that is willing to provide my time for 6 minutes 12 months to see what can be gained from therapy. but I'm mentally checked out of this marriage. We do have kids, and I'm almost inclined to say at MC tonight that for me to stay in this relationship it would be a forever sentence. 15 years being the amount of time before my youngest leaves the house for college. Can miracles happen as time goes by? I'd love to become reinvested into things, and we did have a great time before this mess came out. But the damage is so severe I have doubts that I can ever forgive. I'm hoping that similar to the pain experienced when someone you love passes away. Maybe in time I will find the strength to get back into things. My wife and I are 2 months out from D-Day, and the plate is quite full of her affairs throughout our marriage. I call it 2 affairs as 2 were EA, PA, and 1 was EA. She's got an attention addiction, and in these cases, it was a combination of her ability to wander on me based on our years of on and off relationship status, which I too, prior to engagement, was not perfectly faithful. However, I was able to shut it down when we got engaged. And these guys filling her need for attention and to be desired. The rest is history. She will not leave me, and she has made that clear. And it's not just about her fear of being out in the world alone. She loves me and would never recover from losing me. Hard to imagine that given her actions. But I'm seeing true remorse. So, at the least I'm not dealing with someone that was conflicted on who they wanted when the affair was exposed. As in the book Not Just Friends, she immediately came to terms with where her heart was. Not her lust. Without making a huge threat as I usually do, she wants this. I want to try this. But I still find myself wavering. But it's not wavering between R and D, it's more just between R and being invested in things versus just wanting space and distance. We have some out-of-town weddings coming up, and she really wants us to go together. There will certainly be a part of me that is forcing myself to suck it up and mentally check into the weekend fun. I guess my simple questions is, can time together when you are still confused do any bad? I'm hoping it can only help, and I don't have the personality where I'll blow up or make a scene at someone else's special day. So, I'm not really a liability, if that makes any sense. Or with a positive spin, can time together only help when you are still unsure on where you want to be? My issue is complicated in that my wife was winding down a secret relationship when we were engaged. They were still intimate during our engagement. And has had other transgressions through our 7 years. Book-ended marriage with affairs. Yuck. Since she is really my only love, and relationship for that matter. As much as I love her, I'm struck by the curiosity of what else is out there. I don't want to throw away this relationship on what ifs, but what if she's everything I don't want and I've been faking it all along? I have nothing to benchmark her against. I have been fully open to her about these concerns and said I may need to date before I can get back into this. And I understand I risk losing her if she changes her mind. To be honest, in my head a 2-year break would likely be the best scenario. But it is extreme and we have children. She is okay with this, has used the term hall pass a few times, which creates its own set of problems. Why is she okay with me going out and getting some? And she said, I guess if you fall in love with someone, we have real problems. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm out of the shocked phase, and just realize I really need to work on myself before I'm ready to work on the relationship. My wife really needs to work on her addiction too. My WW has snapped out of the fog to such an extreme that she too is having a problem understanding what has taken her down this road for so many years. She's fighting depression, and she likely needs a script. She literally cannot fathom life without me, and I'm careful to not punish her. As I was at the onset of this mess. Because I could easily say life without me, perhaps you should have thought about that before getting down with other guys. Back to wanting legitimate space, everything is a trigger at home. The engagement pictures. Wedding pictures, car, house. I mean, crap has gone on everywhere I look between guy number 1 at the beginning of our relationship and this recent loser. So, I may be in an okay mood on the way home from work, but I find myself resenting things when I get home. It's tough, I'm being childish in some ways, but I think that even part-time. Some nights where I just come home to an empty, quiet place. It will help me figure out where I want to go. It really is amazing how a baton can be passed from one spouse to another. After intensive interrogation, I got my wife to admit to a number of affairs throughout our marriage. Some I suspected but chose to ignore. Except her swearing that nothing happened. I'm amazed at how badly our individual investment in our marriage has changed. She wants our relationship more than life itself, and we're talking real remorse. Regret, she understands how badly she destroyed everything. I now find myself just totally on the fence with this woman, and only months ago I was the doormat by our front porch that could never leave. And that was the problem, let me tell you. I was her constant. I was always there since our teenage years. Once she realized I had found the strength to move on without her, she went into shock, pretty much. Just south of 3 months from D-Day, well, more like 1 month after Trickle Truth stopped, and there is still just a ton of anger in my head for this woman. Right now, the reasons I haven't left are simply the kids. They are a huge part of my life. And the thought of some loser man living with the mother of my kids and being in their lives. Kids are young. I can now understand the whole concept of staying together for the kids. I used to chuckle when a morning show would bring an expert on to discuss this concept. But now this is my life. Am I now in the reality of an average relationship? I thought we had perfection. Clearly, we didn't. Wife admits this is an addiction problem she suffers from. I didn't push her away. In fact, she is so scared of me dating because according to her you are such an amazing man. So attractive and so caring. In a nutshell, I guess he is admitting I could do much better than her. And she is never going to find someone like me at this point. Can I fake it and hop back into this relationship for the sake of family? Absolutely. But it's almost like the marriage will provide a service to our family unit. With the love aspect being on the back burner, I told my wife I think I have the ability to forgive her. But I don't know whether it's in our marriage or out of our marriage. She responded that she didn't care if we divorced. Who are you, woman? Also, I told her while we are separated, I'm moving out September 1st for 3 months. If she is the one that decides she wants out of the marriage, I will have a lot of respect for her. She responded that she will be bitter if I end the marriage. She is so selfish it is unbelievable. She is an extremely selfish person, and now that she seems to have come to terms with her attention addiction. Next up is adjusting her frame of mind to stop thinking how does this decision affect me and modify to what is best for everyone involved. Divorce, she talks a huge game, and her natural defense mechanism would be anger towards me if I left her. But that front would wear off quickly and she'd be a disaster of guilt, shame, and depression. She'd be devastated if I left her, her words. In this morning's conversation, I brought to her attention that it concerns me that my forgiveness only means something to her if we stay together. That is not a sign of a healthy person. With my as long as I hammer nails of common sense into her thick skull, she starts to understand the logic of things. I mean, it makes sense if you look at this from a selfish person's point of view. If I leave her, that's going to make her life difficult. So her natural response is, duck you. Unfortunately for her, even these thoughts need to be taken in for service. Because I'm at a zero-tolerance policy for irrational thinking. And she will address all her issues before we work on the us factor. Currently, we still have a lot of work to do on the individual aspect of each other. My wife seems to have an attention addiction, which led to her affairs. They were lengthy with guys she was already friends with, and whether they sensed she was vulnerable or she green-lighted the affair, it went all the way. But here's the thing that is tough for me to come to terms with. The guys were losers, and half as attractive as me. The first was dumb as bricks, failed out of a basic civil service academy, and didn't have anything else going for him. The other was overweight and recently filed for personal BK, along with his pregnant wife and 2 other kids. Not to toot my horn, but when it comes to opportunities, I've had women at my office basically whisper to me that they would be willing to lay down whenever I wanted to. I'm in my mid-30s, still have 6-pack abs, and according to my wife, I'm so attractive and caring that she would never find someone like me ever again. Thanks, honey. Where were those thoughts when you slept with other men? I guess in a way I can answer my own question. My wife was hearing what she loved to hear from these pieces of crap. They just filled her ego up to the max, filled the need to be desired. Thrill of the chase. But come on, if I were to wander, and it would be scary easy given the bench of women that apparently are ready when I am, though I imagine that could change if I truly came onto them. I think it would be with a woman that was hotter than my wife, perhaps wealthy. But at the least, someone that I felt was really well put together. To cheat with a scrappy girl that was a hot mess or had baggage, what on earth? It just doesn't make sense to me. Had an interesting conversation the other night with my wife, and I honestly felt bad for her. She says to me, you are perfect, good looking, very smart, can play any sport, understand complicated issues, can rebuild an engine and then put on a suit and have a high-level discussion with intellectuals. Blah blah blah. She then says she is not very talented, very average, not very smart, doesn't get highbrow humor. But she is good at parenting, which is absolutely true. She is an amazing mother. I felt a bit crappy after the conversation, not because I felt at fault for what she did, but I just wished she was more open with me about these insecurities she never told anyone about. I would have helped her and extolled her virtues. So, in essence, I absolutely think these loser dudes were comfortable for her as she was above them. It still sucks she stooped to that level, but I suppose we'll come out stronger with all the takeaways from this mess. So much damage, but I care for her, possibly still love her. But our relationship is bookended with affairs. She was dating another guy in a full-fledged relationship when we got engaged, and it continued into our engagement. She picked me instead of him for marriage. I win. And this year, I exposed another full-on relationship where the other man had fallen in love with her. She admitted to me she wouldn't have stopped the affair without me finding out, since my wife was so selfish that she kept me caged up when we were still dating. yet had a second relationship. Had she been mature and said we needed a break to date others, things would be much different. We found our way back to each other before. I wouldn't be so wildly curious as to what it's like to date someone else. I came into myself late in life, pretty much at the time she was emotionally abusing me, yet I've been able to control the impulse to wander. This is really the only woman I truly had a long-term relationship with. And now that she destroyed all I knew, inevitably I'm absurdly curious as to what else is out there. Such a terrible reward for trying to do everything right. My therapist pretty much said he thinks I need to try out dating some other girls before even considering reconciliation with my wife. He thinks I'll eat myself up from the inside or become my wife and cheat on her in the future. I don't disagree, and while being separated isn't the same as a clean divorce, at least it's not having an affair while one is thinking everything is fine and dandy in marriage. My wife has accepted I may be with other girls. Crazy how much she wants to be with me. Amazing really given her past. It certainly suggests otherwise. So, get this, I sublease an apartment from a random ad, and when I meet the lesser for the first time, she is cute, cool, and it was almost like we had immediate chemistry. We both were almost puzzled, and we have kept in touch. I was upfront with her about my baggage, and she is okay with it. Crazy. This is like another version of a cute person sitting next to you on a plane. It rarely happens. And if it does it amount to anything? Typically, not. Went out with her and some of her friends last night, and it was the most fun I have had since May. Really going to focus on taking things extremely slow. And I do not want to hurt this girl, so I told her that if she meets someone else, she should not hesitate to try things out as my future is uncertain with my WW. I know everyone can't be happy when a relationship ends, but I suppose you can be respectful with someone versus being a selfish bastard and lead them on. I felt much better after I told her about my situation. I guess this new girl gives me hope, at the least, that perhaps there are greener pastures. At a time when my optimism is blown to pieces. About a month later, we're separated, and something that has never happened to me before occurred. The girl that subleased me an apartment happened to be beautiful, cool, and intellectual. I'm fully aware of the risks associated with a rebound, but it's tough to ignore the serendipitous aspect of this encounter. I mean, I don't know this girl really, and do we ever click? She has my quirky sense of humor. She gets the world the way I see it. She is smart. She gave me this compliment, which was a big turn on. I love your use of the English language. That kind of compliment is certainly not of the top 100 list of pickup lines. I was fully upfront with my messy situation. Separated, kids, needing to take it super slow. And she is okay with it. This is funny. My wife said to me recently, "You are an amazing man, quite attractive, and so caring." A new girl recently told me, "You are pretty amazing thus far." So I guess wifey wasn't lying, and that is also why she must have been so petrified I was moving out and considering dating. Am I playing with fire here? I didn't lie at all to new girl. Wife basically knows dating is on the table. New girl must be hearing from her friends that she's at risk of getting hurt if I reconcile. I am kind of running with this and seeing what happens, with the intent of having fun and trying to find myself and what I truly want at this point. Is there any reason to change my approach? I am okay with my wife calling it quits. I'm okay with new girl calling it quits. And I'm okay with either relationship working out. I am also okay with neither relationship working out. Win-win, or am I setting myself up for disaster? Almost half a year later, my wife is remorseful, and she is a good person and well-liked. I go back to this concept of a weighted average, and even putting a big price on infidelity. She's worth another shot, I think. Each to their own, but I also put a lot of stock in the simple things like reading a book and tucking the kids in, which unfortunately go away in a large quantity for a dad in a divorce. I will admit that if there were no children involved, I'd be gone, but the kids altered my whole thought process. And based on what I'm feeling inside, I don't think it's simply the stay together for the kids concept. It was more like the kids were the catalyst in putting an extensive amount of thought in all of this. And I have made it clear to my wife that she has them to thank at the moment for me considering R. Another half a year later, my relationship is unorthodox at this point with my wife. We have an open marriage and things just work for us. We're honestly happier now. My comment, one of the weirder endings I have posted here, but maybe some people like open marriages more. However, I don't want that, because it's a little bit too much work for me.